Radio Network, the world's conscious broadcasting network, live on iTunes and archived on iHeartRadio, the voice of consciousness. And now, join Shay Parker's Best of the Best, offering celebrity guests, lively discussions, hot topics, free psychic readings, and expert guest hosts. Simply the best in spiritual and metaphysical talk radio. Listen live on your phone or device using our universal mobile player. No app needed. Shay Parker's Best of the Best. Find out more at bestamericanpsychics.com.
The month here on OMTimes Radio, and tonight my special guest is Dr. Paul Haider. I'm so excited that he's joining us this evening, and I will tell you a little bit about him before I have him start talking to all of us. He is a spiritual teacher and a master herbalist, an author, a speaker, counselor, and he's well known as being a spiritual teacher working to help people by giving of his time and love. He helps people find spiritual realization and look within to find fulfillment and contentment in life. Dr. Haider holds a doctoral degree in religious studies from Emerson Institute, a degree in psychology from the Union Institute, and he's a master herbalist. He has certifications in hypnosis, Reiki, QiQong, yoga, and many, many more areas. You can contact him on his website at www.paulhaider.com, and he spells his last name Haider. His email address is drpaulhaider@gmail.com. Two of his books that he has written are Relax into Success, and the one that we're going to speak a little bit about tonight is 21 Ways to Live a Stress-Free Life in Only 21 Days. He's also, I know, a big writer on OMTimes magazine. I read his articles a lot. He's very much a big contributor there, and I know he's other articles. So welcome, Dr. Haider, to the show. How are you?
I'm great. How about you, Vicki?
I'm doing wonderful.
Great.
So I guess how we can start out is maybe tell us a little bit about how you started off on a spiritual path.
Well, I think as a kid, I was always on that path. I remember having a picture of me standing under a tree and looking up and kind of with my eyes half closed, and being a kid that didn't really fit in and thought there was something else more to life. I found that there was a greater expanse of something that needed to be filled inside of me, and that put me on that path of discovery ever since I was about 8 or 9.
Wow. So that happened very young for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that as well, because I know I heard you mention not feeling like you fit in. So I'm sure a lot of listeners can relate to that and looking for something else more in life. So
I remember being with kids and seeing them bullying people, and I just kind of, repelled from that, and I did my own thing, And
right.
When kids got into drugs, I just kind of walked away from that whole group.
Oh, good for you.
And so I was always on my own path, and I decided that really it's about what's inside and not what's on the outside that counts.
Yeah, very true, very true. So other people that are listening, if they're, maybe a younger on their path, starting off on their journey, what would some words of, hope or inspiration would you give them to be able to be themselves and not have to go along with the crowd as they start their spiritual path?
Believe in everything you see. All those little things that you notice are real. All those little things that most people poo-poo are real. Everything that you have noticed and you kind of, that's not real because a lot of people would put you down. Believe in them. because those are a lot of your spiritual experiences. When you start believing in that, then you really start to seeing great miracles happen in your life. And when you start opening up to that and embracing all that stuff, I remember the first time I was house sitting for somebody, and I was sleeping in their bed, and I was taking care of like a menagerie of animals. That they have. 2 dogs, like 9 cats, and 2 birds, rats, all this stuff, you know. And in the middle of the night, all of a sudden, the dog started barking, and it was about midnight. And we get woke out of sleep, you know, and you're kind of grumpy. And I got up and go, guys, be quiet. And then I caught myself, and I went outside, and you know where they were, and I calmed them down, and went back to the bed. And the indentation in my pillow were these little lines of light that were moving.
Wow!
And I shook my head, and I said no. And then the next night, at midnight, the same time, the dogs are barking again. So, oh man! And then I run outside. You know, at first I'm a little mad, and I said, no, you must have saw something. So I calmed them down. I went back to bed, and there in the indentation in my pillow were the lines of light. And I just started bursting into tears.
Right. How beautiful.
And then a while later, a young kid that I know that went to Krishna Marudi School, he came into my office, and he looked at my head, and he said, what are those little lines of light around your head?
Wow. And
I just burst into tears. And I said, what do you think they are? And he said, those are your guardian angels. And so believe in all those little things that you see. They are real.
Yeah, very much so. And I know us as humans like to try to discount them, just like you were saying, you know, that, but I believe there's no coincidences. And when we're ready to see them, we'll see them like you saw on the pillow.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just awesome that the dogs woke you up, and that you saw that, how they were a part of it as well.
Right now we're seeing a lot of what we call divine particles around. I think we're coming into an apex of spiritual expansion that's about to happen. And a lot of people were seeing these little silver, gold, white little particles. I remember one day I was just looking at the back of my hand, and all of a sudden I saw these little glitter on the back of my hand. I said, what is that?
Right.
Yeah, because that's interesting. I don't have any makeup on or anything. So I didn't think about it much. But then I started seeing them on my desk and showing up in books in different places. And I go, oh, this is coalescence of divine energy.
Wow.
Which people are seeing all over the place now, and all over in different countries.
That's awesome.
And it means that we're getting closer to the connection to the divine, so we will automatically understand all of it very soon. And I'm looking forward to that happening in a very short time. Mm-hmm.
So when did you know that you wanted to help others on their spiritual path?
I think about the same time I saw those lines of light.
Really? That's So that was kind of your sign that there's more out there, and that you have more to offer and help others.
I think it also happened when I had a couple divorces in my life, and that shakes you to your core, you know.
Definitely. So I think that's a really good point that you bring up, is a lot of people, their experiences help them along on their spiritual journeys, and maybe to learn to help other people by using their own experiences.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people think of the worst times as just the worst times, but the worst times actually wake us up so we can see the best of times. And I even wrote an article about that today.
Oh, did you? Wow. Did you post that in the OMTimes writers community?
Yep.
Okay. I'll have to check that out.
And it's talking about one man's experience about breaking up with a particular person in his life and losing basically everything.
Wow.
And that points him in the direction of when you get down into the gutter and there's only one way to go. That's up.
It's up. Yeah.
Yeah. And his experience of going to do a Vipassana meditation workshop, and then going to AA and actually having some breakthroughs there also.
Okay, great. So the listeners, if you want to check out Dr. Haider's article that he wrote today, you can go to the OMTimes Writer community online, and it should be posted in there, right? Is it usually posted on the right-hand side, the newer posts?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people have this rejection of everything that hurts, but really what hurts is allowing ourselves to open our heart.
Yeah, that's true. And that's hard to do sometimes, is open that heart and be vulnerable and allow those feelings to come in. Yeah.
There was I can't think of her last name, Bernice Brown.
Okay.
She's a psychologist, and she has a few YouTube videos. And
okay.
One of these people who was a psychologist at the same time, it closed off her heart and really, wasn't going to be vulnerable and all that kind of stuff. And she was investigating what made people happy. And what she really found, which was astonishing to her, was the fact that when people became vulnerable and open and allowed themselves to feel their feelings, even the good and the bad, they were happier in general.
Right.
And she had to address that in her own life, and it was a crisis, and she had to go do some counseling about it.
Wow.
And so, eventually, she got past that, but it was a thing about allowing herself to be vulnerable with even her people in her family.
Yeah, that's very hard. That's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know we have a minute before we go to our first commercial break, and I know that when we come back, I want to talk about your book and also about, I know I listened to one of your videos and that you talked actually about some spiritual awakenings that you had. I think you mentioned that you had 4 or 5 of them. So I think that that's so important because I know there's so many people out in the world that are having these awakenings, spiritual awakenings, and they don't know what to make of it or what it all means. So when we come back, I'd like to discuss that more with you.
Okay.
So we'll see you back in a few minutes. So stay tuned.
You're listening to OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Matt Connerton here. Join Jen Coffey and I twice a week for Matt Connerton Unleashed, a political talk show that's a little different than what you're used to. No liberal or conservative agenda here, just an honest dialogue about truth and how things really work in the world of politics. Matt Connerton Unleashed, every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment, a philanthropic organization. Their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Welcome back to Divine Angel Messages. I'm your host, Vicki Snyder, and I will remind you again that my guest tonight is Dr. Paul Haider, and we have been talking about walking a spiritual path, and as we come back from our break, I would like to talk again about spiritual awakenings. Now, Dr. Paul Haider has had at least 4 or 5, probably more spiritual awakenings that I would like him to maybe share a little bit about those with us, because I'm sure there's many of you out there that are going through maybe some of the same things, and maybe his experience and wisdom can help you through those things. So, where would you like to start with that topic? Dr. Peter?
I think of one that happened a few years ago.
Okay.
I had a particular different business at that time, and somebody decided to sue me.
Oh.
And, I've never been sued before, ever. And I went to my lawyer, which is a good friend of mine. In fact, he was supposed to come over today. And I said, no, God, what are we got to do about this? And I'm just beside myself. And he said, don't worry about it, Paul. I'll take care of it. And I tell you, for 3 or 4 nights, I couldn't sleep. I just could not sleep at all. I
wouldn't either.
Beside myself.
Yeah.
And then the next night, all of a sudden, this huge peace came over me. And these words came to me that everything will be fine, Paul. And there's this peace. It just filled my whole body. And I just let it go. And from that point on, my lawyer called and said, hey, we sent him a letter. They were letting it go. No big deal. You take me to dinner sometime. So everything was good. I didn't have to pay any lawyer bills. Everything was good. It was that great peace that filled me that I just knew from a great knowing inside my heart that everything was going to be fine.
Right. And where did that voice come from, do you think? Do you think it was an angel? Was it, your higher self? I mean, where do you think that came from?
What do you call that? I mean, God lives inside
the divine,
of us. Yeah. The divine lives inside of us. The higher self lives inside of us. It lives in our heart, you know what I mean?
Right.
And that voice. And then it was the Christ consciousness. It is the voice of Sai Baba. It is the voice of, Paramahansa Yogananda. Is it the voice of Divine Mother Amma? Well, what is that? You know what I mean? I don't know. But I know it is a supreme essence.
Exactly. And I think that's a good point you bring up too about knowing who it's coming from. And you obviously had this great sense of trust. And that's, I think that something that gets in the way of people on their spiritual path is that they don't have that trust. So I really, when I work with people, I recommend definitely working on that level of trust that everything's going to be okay, and having that sense of peace. And it necessarily doesn't always matter where you come up with, who told you that or where you got that guidance, as long as you trust it.
Yeah, right now I think that a lot of people, there's these divergent things. We have a lot of angry people. We have a lot of people who have given up. And then we have this section of people who are totally in love. And the ones that have given up are kind of like lost, and they don't know what to listen to.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think if they really grasp hold of their spirituality and I know that it seems a little trite, but that faith, you know what I mean? We got to have that faith that we hold on to, and just know that when we listen to our heart and it says everything's going to be okay, we got to hold on to that with all our heart and soul and not let it go.
Exactly. That's so true. And, people, I think, through their experiences and things maybe not going well for them in life, that they lose that faith and lose that trust. So hopefully people, talking with you and listening to you can help them to maybe get that back or take a step closer towards that trust.
I think that there's not a whole lot of difference between the person who has a huge amount of faith, and is a healer and wants to help people, and the person who is a psychopath on the other side,
Yeah.
Because we could go either direction. There's no doubt about it.
Right. Yeah.
But we have to listen to what voice are we going to listen to,
That's a good point too. Very good point is listen, pushing aside any of the negativity and trying to replace that with a positivity, which positive thoughts, again, is can be hard for us humans to do.
Yeah, and then we always have that little negative voice that comes up. We see somebody, the automatic thing is to judge,
Definitely.
And it's to catching that little voice and go, no, wait a minute, and let it go. I'm not going that direction, and then send them love,
Definitely.
Send them light. And know that they're on their path and what they're moving towards is all important for their lessons.
Right.
And the more we do this, the more it becomes automatic inside of us. And then the more, I've seen aura all my life.
Uh-huh.
And the more aura of white light we see even around ourselves after a while. And that's important. A lot of people, I see the majority of people have a lot of green, which is a lot, in my imaging, has a lot to do with shame and guilt.
Really?
And a lot of black, which has a lot to do with depression and sadness and anger and that type of thing. But mostly green. Green is a very prevalent thing. And so a lot of people, they have a lot of shame and guilt about their lives and how they conducted themselves and all that. But if we start listening to that little positive voice inside our head and following that, no matter what, and having such a great faith that we will walk down that path, even through the fire, to answer that call, I think that life would be better for everybody.
Oh, definitely. And I just know from, my working with people as a psychic medium and, a coach that that guilt and that shame, it is very prevalent among people. And we are just so hard on ourselves, too, and holding on to those feelings and not letting them go.
Even with families, see a lot of that, and that pulls families apart, you know what I mean?
Definitely, yeah.
Come to a family, and when one person says, I can't forgive you for that happened when we were 8 years old and we're 50 now.
It's true, though. We do. Yeah. We hold on to those things.
Yeah, and the other person goes, I don't remember 8 years old, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be me. But so for people like that, what do you suggest? How can they start healing those feelings?
They really have to touch them. It's kind of like having as I wrote today, it's like having a spasm in your upper back, and you have this muscle that's like locked up. Uh-huh. And unless you get in there and do some acupressure on it and push really hard, and it starts to hurt, it's never going to go away.
Right.
And so you have to feel that pain until it lets go.
Yeah.
And sometimes some people have the analogy of walking through the fire. Well, a lot of times that's what you have to do. You got to walk through all those memories. You got to touch it all. I do take students on a regular basis. I've had some for like 10 years, and they're just beginning,
Yeah.
But they just start seeing things, and they start deducing stuff. I had a man a while back, one of my students, that nobody called him on Christmas. Here he is. He has 4 kids. They live with their mom. His ex didn't call him. None of the family in his life called him, and he was feeling really bad.
Yeah.
And so he finally got so down that he looked inside and he said, "Why is that?" It had to do with the fact that when he was a kid, he was abandoned a lot. He was kind of left to his own devices because the mother and father were always busy.
Right.
They kind of let him do his own thing. In reality, he wanted their attention.
Yeah.
And so that pushed the button inside of him like, oh, nobody wants me anymore.
Yeah.
So we have to, and then he really said to himself, that's not true. Everybody wants me. They're just busy right now.
Yeah.
And we have to come to that realization. That was pushing the acupressure on that muscle.
Definitely. Yeah, I definitely can feel that one for him. It doesn't feel good, but he had to feel it. You're right. He had to look at it and face it. Yeah.
And then after that, it was no big deal. He was happy being okay by himself.
Yeah.
And he let it all go. But if we don't allow ourselves to feel those feelings and express them and be vulnerable with them, we never heal them.
Right.
And that's what it takes. And it's really difficult when you have people in anger because they resist all this,
Right.
And a lot of that touchy-feely stuff, they're not going there.
No, they're not. So how do you find what works best for a person that has anger?
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
They come to their own realizations when they're ready.
When they're ready, yep.
Yeah, and you can't make anybody else do anything.
No, you can't. You're right.
And a lot of people would like to, of course, and everybody would. But it's really not possible. They have to come to something inside of them. And maybe in this lifetime or maybe in another.
Right.
And, as Buddha said, he closed his eyes for a moment and lived 10,000 lives, So there are going to be many more for everyone.
Yeah.
And we will get to that place. We all get there.
Right.
Oh, great bliss. But it takes a process, and we just have to be okay with it, and fold our hands and honor each one as the Buddha, as the Christ, as as a leader. So the avatars are there in front of us, so we just have to see that they are.
Right. Okay.
So it's a healing process that they have their own timeline with.
Yeah, that's so true. And they will. You can't you're right. You can't force anyone to work on that healing, to let go of the anger and cut those cords, and they have to realize that on their own, and maybe sometimes hit rock bottom before they do.
Yeah, when I see somebody hit rock bottom, there's a part of my heart that goes, "Oh, that's sad," but the other part of my heart now actually says, "Wow, this is good."
Now we can get to work, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a man in my office yesterday, and he was in rock bottom.
Oh.
And I was saying, you know what? You may not understand this, but this is the best thing that's happened in a long time to you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to go to break in just another minute. Okay. And when we do come back, I would like to now maybe we can talk about your book, because I think some of the stuff we've been talking about leads up to stress. So I know stress is such a huge thing in the world right now. It has been for many years, and we live such fast-paced lives. And I like your title, 21 Ways to Live a Stress-Free Life in Only 21 Days. So I'd really like to talk about that and the tips. So That's what we'll talk about when we come back from break.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Hi, this is Sylvia Henderson, intuitive life coach and energy healer. Are you ready to elevate and rise way above your normal? Be sure to listen to my show, Intuitive Transformations, on OMTimes Radio, Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. Get the inspiration you need to transform your life.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
You're listening to OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Welcome back, everyone, to Divine Angel Messages. I'm Vicki Snyder, and tonight my guest is Dr. Paul Haider. We've been talking about people walking a spiritual path, the spiritual awakenings, and now we're going to start talking about stress, and that is something I'm sure we all can relate to. Dr. Paul Haider has written a book, 21 Ways to Live a Stress-Free Life in Only 21 Days, so we're going to discuss that and talk about some of the tips that he has to do this. So, what do you, Dr. Haider, how would you describe stress to people? Because I'm sure that's kind of a term that people may have different thoughts on. So, to you, what is stress?
Stress is anything where you feel uncomfortable with inside your skin. Okay,
good.
And it first happened to me because my father died of a stress-induced heart attack at the age of 57.
Wow, young.
Yep. And I found myself going down the same path, and I was landed in the doctor's office having a treadmill test, and the doctor looked at me and says, "You're stronger than I am. I think you got a little stress going on." I decided to change my life. And that put me on that road of writing a couple books about that.
Yeah.
And one of the best things we can do is learn to be honest with ourselves. You know, I got some stress going on. I have anxiety. I have these feelings of panic, and I have these feelings of not being comfortable with myself. So I need to deal with this. And one of the biggest ways we can do that is to have some rituals for our life. And I think of them as 7 areas: taking care of our mind, our body, our spirit, our relationships, our social life, our financial life, and our core beliefs that, you know, hold the whole thing up. It's kind of like a tree and all these limbs on each side. The core beliefs in the middle as the trunk, and then there's 6 other aspects on the outside. And people get out of balance, way out of balance, and I think it's really important. You know, we can be stressed out just because we don't sleep enough, and a majority of people right now are not sleeping enough.
Yeah, I know. That was another topic I wanted to talk about. So, and that all plays part in the stress, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, most people on average need 8 hours and 15 minutes.
8 hours and 15, wow.
Most people are not even getting 6.
Yeah. And why do you think that is?
I think we're impacted with all this news and all this stuff we think we need to look at all the time, and the TV and the computers and all the stuff we have to interact with. We think, but reality is we don't.
Right.
But it takes over the mind, and it actually runs the mind after a while, and we begin to think we're not in control because that is in control. And so I know one particular person in California hasn't watched the news in 30 years, and
wow.
She's really a well-informed person and is a really big person in their community and helping the community. And so I really think that we need to cut out some of the texting. We need to cut out being on the computer so much. We have to have a little balance in our life.
Yeah, very true.
And a lot of people have lost it. And some people are up all night, and they try to sleep during the day. And that's really not very true to ourselves either, because in every organ we have 2 little nodes of tissue which bleep on and off like light.
Uh-huh.
And they click off every second. And they know when we should be sleeping, and they know when we should be awake. And even when we take people down 300 feet into the earth in tunnels, and it's pitch black down there, and when there's no way to see the sun, eventually they get into the cycle, going to sleep when the sun goes down and getting up when the sun comes up.
Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing.
Yeah.
But we can't lie to the body. The body knows automatically. It's been programmed for thousands upon thousands of years when it should be sleeping. And fluorescent lights, really are a problem also, because they try to kind of tricks the mind. But the reality is, in order to actually have less depression and anxiety, we need to get out in the sun.
Yeah.
As the sunlight comes into our eye, goes into the hippocampus and interacts with, the amygdala and all the different parts of our brain that makes us happy. So that's important also.
It's like impossible where I live in Rochester, New York. Sun, especially in the winter, there's no sun hardly ever. It is. It's just horrible.
Sun lamps, you know.
Yeah.
That'll help also.
Yeah.
They actually found that people who live in Antarctica during the wintertime, they start losing it after a while.
Yeah.
They start going,
We need the sun, that's for sure.
And
That's for
the
sure.
sun comes up finally, they all stop and just watch the sunrise.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So we are sun beings. We are
Yeah.
And it's also eating right. A lot of people stress themselves out so much by not eating right, and that's important also. I think that's one of the big things. I think a lot of people don't eat enough fruits and veggies, and we eat a lot of junk food and processed food, and this is causing a lot of stress in a lot of people's bodies, and it also moves us into cancer and diabetes and all this other stuff.
Right.
And so that's one thing that we need to get back to basics on also.
That's a great way to start. But like stressors, like I know you mentioned. I think you mentioned there were 7 that you had on the tree, right? Now is one is money. Now what can people do when, say, they just don't have enough and they do have, they're having problems making their bills and buying groceries? How can they relieve some of that stress?
I think
that's a hard one.
The hard things will pass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I was growing up, my dad was a rice farmer, and we made $25,000 total a year.
Mm-hmm.
Got paid once a year.
Wow.
And my mom was really good at budgeting, and she was always canning. We had chickens, and we had a big garden, and we made it work, And I think a lot of people, if they had to be on that budget and, do everything my mom did, I don't think they could do it.
Right.
But we can do it. There's no doubt about it. We have a lot of luxuries in our life we take for granted,
Very true.
And so when you get down to the basics and you start growing your own vegetables and you have to wash them off and, peel them and all that kind of stuff, and you have fresh food because you just pulled out of the ground yourself, it makes you feel better.
Yeah, I'm sure. But what happens now, because these stressors kind of all play a part with each other. So what about, I actually printed an article you wrote on this, the 7 overcome the 7 habits of stressed out people. So the one is too much to do. So again, in order, the money thing, maybe in order to save money, then you do have to do, you physically have to do more. And then that can add to stress. So how do you, it just seems like it could be a never-ending circle.
Actually, some of the people that I know have the least amount of money and do the least amount of things.
Really?
Yeah, but they're the happiest people.
Yeah.
The actual group of people who are actually the happiest are like massage therapists.
Really?
Yeah. They don't make a lot of money.
Uh-huh.
But they seem to be very happy in general.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
And in fact, one of our daughters is a massage therapist. But in general, they're very happy because they're doing what they love.
Right.
And a lot of people worry about, having more money than the Joneses next door. But, that's
True.
really what life is all about. It's just having enough to survive and to get by on.
Right.
And the rest is gravy after that. It doesn't really mean anything. But having enough downtime, that's really, really important, because if you can't go inside and look at what you are doing and you're just running like a chicken with your head cut off, that's really not a happy world, No,
not at all. And what do you find in your work? What do you see that people that are overstressed and not sleeping, what does it do to their body? I know it takes a toll on their body, but what has your experience been?
First of all, adrenal fatigue, and you feel wrung out. You don't have any energy. I remember there was one lady coming to me and said, "Tell me about your day." And she was stressed out. And he said, "Well, I get up at 7:45. I grab a cup of coffee. I run out the door, and I go to work. And until 12 o'clock, I run out for fast food. I come back and eat it. Then I work till 8 o'clock at night. and I go home on the way and I have fast food, and then I watch TV till 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I get up at 7:45 again and do the whole thing over.
Oh.
And
Wow.
she wonders why she was stressed. You know, we create this, every one of us. And we create our own stress. Nobody's doing it to us. We are the ones that fix the agenda. And we think that, I have to be there all the time and I'm indispensable and all these different things. But no, that's really not true.
Right.
If you die, they'll just replace you. So it's about allowing yourself to find the downtime. A lot of companies are getting to the point where they'll take and allow a person to work 4 days a week and still make the same amount of money and then have 3 days off. Which is really great,
Yeah, I'd be for that, definitely. And I know, I work full-time during the day in an office, and I see groups of people walking during the day, repetitively. Their employers are allowing them to actually leave as groups and walk, and I'm sure they are encouraging it. So I think that's also a wonderful thing, is to get up away from the computer and get outside, fresh air, and all of that.
Yeah, I walk 5 miles a day.
That's fantastic.
If it's raining, I go in the mall and walk. If it's not, I'm outside walking.
Yeah.
But it's really important. I can actually walk 5 miles in 50 minutes.
Wow. Wonderful. So where can people get your book? Well, I know you have two. The other one is Relax into Success. So where can they get your book as we head into the break?
Amazon.
Amazon? Okay.
Yeah. And I want to put out there also that they can get my, they can phone me at any time at 831-869-9119, 831-869-9119. And my email is drpaulhaider@gmail.com. Feel free to connect with me, and my work is all free.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Everything is free. I just want to help people. That's all.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Do you want to be a better communicator? Do you want to better connect with the important people in your life? Do you want to enrich your relationships? If so, join me, Matthew Cooper, on the Positive Control System show every Wednesday evening at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on OMTimes Radio. I'll meet you there.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness in action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
You're listening to OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Welcome back to Divine Angel Messages. I'm Vicki Snyder, and tonight my guest is Dr. Paul Haider. you can reach him at www.paulhaider.com, and he spells his last name Haider. We've been having an interesting conversation about spirituality, stress, and going into this last piece of the show, I wanted to get into talking about him being a master herbalist. We touched on the spiritual teacher, and now I think it's time to kind of talk about what a master herbalist is and what you do with that. So can you tell us what a master herbalist is?
Someone who's been actually teaching and healing with herbs for over 30 years.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's a long time. I know. In one of your videos, I heard you say heal with food. So what is that? What does that mean for the listeners?
Healing with food?
Yeah.
As Hippocrates says, let thy food be thy medicine.
Yeah.
Hippocrates has also said all disease starts in the gut. So I think that's really important. Even in Ayurvedic medicine, they say if there's good food, you don't need medicine. If there's not good food, medicine won't do you any good.
Right.
And in Chinese medicine, it echoes the same thing. They have the same kind of quote. So it's really important that we eat good food, and that means organic. The actual lowly potato, a regular potato has 6 cancer-causing agents in it, 12 hormone disruptors, and it's about 12 different neurotoxins in it.
Oh, geez, just a potato?
Just
a white potato. Wow.
And the herbs like tarragon and parsley have about 40 different chemicals in them.
Wow.
And we wonder why we're sick. I can tell you why we're sick.
Yeah.
Because we have all these chemicals in us, and we have to go back to natural food. Back in the 50s, there wasn't anything else except organic.
Right.
Everybody was eating organic, and I think that's why some of the baby boomers are kind of healthy. But then we have a whole new group of people who are eating nothing but junk food and fast food and eating GMOs, which are toxic also, genetically modified foods. And we have all these herbicides and pesticides in them. And it's really doing a terrible number on our body. And so you can really go find a good organic farmer, contract with them, and they'll deliver food to your door cheaper than what it costs to buy regular food in the store.
Wow.
So this thing about, organic food is expensive, that's not true. We get a box of food every Thursday for $40, and it's more than my wife and I can eat.
Oh, geez. That is very reasonable.
Yeah, very reasonable. And so it's a great way to go, and you feel great. If people in the UK and Europe in general, on the average, they have 10 times less toxins in their body. 10 times less. And a lot of that has to do with plastics also. Plastics are a monster. They have up to 24,000 different toxic chemicals in them. And, the old misnomer of, you don't microwave with plastic and all the heat with plastic and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't really matter. If the food touches plastic, it's already toxic.
Yeah.
And so we need to remove plastic from our life, and especially water bottles. You drink from ceramic, glass, and stainless steel.
Yeah.
And we'll start to feel better. There's a lot of different wonderful little herbs out there too. I do a lot of healing. I wrote a great article about PMS and healing with chastity berry or Vitex and chamomile and cramp bark and ginger and a lot of different herbs that can help with healing. The biggest healing I found in my whole life was changing my diet many years ago and going to become a vegan.
Yeah.
And I lost 40 pounds in 3 weeks.
Wow.
My high blood pressure disappeared. My prostate disease disappeared. My kidney disease disappeared. And I felt like there was no more. My arthritis of 40 years disappeared.
Wow.
And I felt like I've been reborn.
That's wonderful.
If you look at my Whole Foods plant-based diet, Dr. Paul Haider on Whole Foods plant-based diet, you'll see the picture of me. It's 3 weeks later, before and after.
Wow.
And I look like a whole different person.
I think I did see that. Yeah. So how do you help people heal with food? I mean, do you work with people individually or as groups with herbs and teaching them?
Yeah, individually, I get a myriad of emails every morning, and if you go to my Facebook page under Dr. Paul Haider, people connect with me there also, and with Messenger, and I get people asking questions. And
nice.
I even have people with cancer and diabetes and all kinds of stuff, and help them to heal with herbs and heal with food and all kinds of different things.
Right. And what other services are you currently offering? Just so our listeners, if they want to get in touch with you, what else do you offer? Do you do any online classes or speaking, or is it mainly just one-on-one?
It's mostly one-on-one, and they can read my articles, and if they have a particular issue coming up, if it's a spiritual one, they can connect with me and I work with them. Or if they have a particular, bodily challenge coming up, they can connect with me and I'll help with them that way.
Nice.
I just had a kid who's psychotic, and actually went, and the parents asked me to start praying for him, and also I pointed them in the direction of Dr. Nemi in Cleveland, which is a great healer also. He was also on the Dr. Oz show. He would pray for people, and people automatically get healed of cancer and different things. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, this kid in 2 days started coming out of psychosis.
Wonderful.
So, never underestimate the spirit world,
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I know I have another question here about spiritual breath work. I know you mentioned that. Now, what is spiritual breath work?
It's kind of like rebirthing, but at a much deeper state.
Okay.
Rebirthing, they just go into a shallow place, and in my spiritual breath work, we take it to the other extreme, and people actually leave their body.
Okay.
And when I'm watching this in my mind's eye, and I actually see actual spiritual changes happen with people. And I had one man, actually I saw this dragon come out of his chest. Mm-hmm. And I know Todd came back into the room and he was recovered. It takes about 2.5 hours for this whole process. And I said, Todd, did you see that dragon that came out of your chest? And he said, you saw that?
Oh, wow. So you both had seen it, yeah.
Yeah, and so I don't know why I have this gift, but I do. And this is a cleansing process. It's breath work, as Stanislav Grof talked about, is an amazing healer of the psyche. And anything that needs to be healed, which comes up into the unconscious mind, automatically gets cleansed. And exactly what is going on, I really don't know. I know there's a spiritual process happening, and I see spiritual things happening. I've actually seen people actually grasping and reaching out to touch God before.
Wow.
I've seen people become, look like Neanderthals and actually change their face and everything. It's amazing. I've seen people have their lights, their whole arms and upper torso just turn into lit up with light. It's an amazing thing because you're disconnecting from this earthly bonds that you have here with this body, and all of a sudden you become just spirit. And that's not something I can do on the phone or on Skype.
No, yeah, it doesn't sound it. It sounds very intense. And do you kind of walk them through it like through meditation?
Actually, the only things I say is keep breathing, breathe deeper, breathe faster. That's all I do. And that's all they hear. And after a while, they don't even hear that.
Yeah.
They go into a different place, and I'm watching. And I know when it's over because what's going on in their aura stops. And then I can say, come back to the room. And a lot of people also end up maybe kind of falling asleep at the end. But I know when the process is over. So and asked to come back because there's no more energetic input going on. But amazing healings happen with it every time that a person goes through it. So if they want to come to Puerto Rico and do that with me, I don't charge anything. So
it's just getting there, right?
Yeah, just get here.
Yeah.
I have a home office, so they're more than welcome to come and do this with me. And I've even had Catholic priests come and do this. So it's powerful.
Yeah.
I've been actually blessed with a few ministers and priests and different people come see me and have help for me in their process of healing their life.
Wow.
And they've all gone on to help other people, which is, I feel, a little gratitude and being just a little help in the process there.
Wonderful. We're just about out of time. I can't believe the time flew by, and I just want to really thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been, for sharing all your experiences and information. I think it's been very helpful to me and to everyone listening.
No, my pleasure, and feel free to contact me. Like I said, my phone number is 831-869-9119, and I live in Puerto Rico, so I'm on Atlantic time zone. And so I'll work with you on the timing on it. Or email me at drpaulhaider, that's drpaulhaider @gmail.com.
Thank you for joining us for Shay Parker's Best of the Best. Be sure to tune in next week for more lively discussion topics. Have a great week, and don't forget to check out bestamericanpsychics.com in case you need some professional, ethical, and accurate psychic advice from the nation's best psychics. Until next week, take care of yourself